Hello, this is Christina here at the Stage Nature Center, coming to you live. I'm going to be doing a program on log life here in just a few minutes. Hope everybody is doing okay and is getting connected okay. So we'll start here in just a moment. Okay, hello again. This is Christina here at the Stage Nature Center. I'm going to switch the view here to the camera so you can see me for just a moment. Let's see here. All right. So, hi again. This is Christina here with the Stage Nature Center. I hope everybody is doing well today, and I'm excited to be with you again to do another live program here from the Stage Nature Center. While we are still currently closed, our building right now here in Troy, Michigan, our building is still closed to the public, although we are opening next week, next Tuesday, June 16th. We will be reopening, so woohoo! We're excited for that. We're excited to get to see you all again and have you come visit us here at the Nature Center. The trails have been open and they remain open for people to go out and enjoy nature outside. We just ask that you continue to practice social distancing and give people their space and be respectful of each other. But definitely encourage you to do that. It looks like it's going to be a beautiful weekend. So I, hope to maybe I'll see you out here on the trails. I know have seen some of you, but otherwise I will see you next week if you are available to come by the Nature Center. For us to reopen. You'll be able to come in, see the exhibits. We will have the children's play areas closed as of right now to minimize exposure and to try to be safe. So the play areas will be closed. We'll also be limiting the amount of people that can come into the building at the same time to 10 people, and we will be asking people to wear masks to try to keep people as safe as possible. So those are some adjustments that we've made, but we do hope to see you, and we are going to be restarting our in-person live programs as well. But I'll continue to do these programs through the end of June, these live Facebook programs. So we'll have a few more left after this one. Today we are talking about log life, and we're going to explore our log life area a little bit that we have here at the Stage Nature Center. And we'll see some videos that I've taken over the past day to help you all explore the log life area with me. As some of you know, our programs, we have all of our programs since middle of March have been canceled. We are a nonprofit organization, so our main source of funding comes from our programs, and of course we haven't been able to do those. So if you have it in your means and are able to, and you'd like to donate today, you can donate through this Facebook post. There should be a donate button. Otherwise, you can go onto our website, stagenaturecenter.org, and you can donate there, or you can also learn a lot about the Stage Nature Center on there, what we have coming up. You can also see all of the previous live Facebook programs that I've done on our Stage Nature Center webpage. They're called Virtual Nature Explorers. So there's a lot of things you can do and see on our webpage. So I hope you go check that out, and there's a lot of great resources on there. So again, today we're going to be talking about log life. Log life is one of the areas that we have here that is actually a lot of fun. Initially, it doesn't sound like a lot of fun because you're talking about logs, but it actually is a lot of fun. It's especially more fun for kids than adults. Sometimes the adults get a little creeped out, and you'll see why here in just a moment when you see the videos that I have to share with you. But basically, we are exploring one of the smaller habitats that exist all over the place, and these habitats play a very important role. They're like a mini habitat. So that's what we're going to be exploring today. I'm going to go ahead and switch the screen here. I hope everybody is able to hear me and see me okay. It looks like on my other device here that I am trying to watch the comments on, that it looks, I'm not sure if it's the internet here or if it's just in general, but it's acting really slow, like it's paused up or frozen. So hopefully you all can see me and hear me okay. If you can't, please leave a comment and hopefully I'll see it. You can also put your questions in the comments, and if I don't get to your question while we're doing the program, then I will go back through afterward and answer your questions. Okay, I see somebody says looks and sounds great. Awesome. Thank you. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and switch the screen here. So again, this is our log life area. So this is an area that is not too far from the Nature Center building off of our Sugar Maple Loop. And here is an area where people and anybody, all ages, are welcome to explore life underneath and around a log. Now, a lot of people don't think about it, but the trees that fall in the natural areas play a very important part of the ecosystem. And a lot of people ask, why do you leave the trees fallen down? Why don't you remove them? Well, because as you'll see here in just a little bit, those fallen trees play a very important role in providing habitat for a lot of the smaller things, a lot of the smaller wildlife that we have. So fallen trees play a very important role. So if the tree is not over the trail, then we don't remove it because the wildlife depends upon it for habitat, and it plays a big important role in the food chain, as you'll see here in just a little bit. So that's why we don't remove logs. Now, a lot of the logs that you'll see in this log life area actually were cut from ash trees that we had to take out years ago due to the emerald ash borer, which is an invasive species, and killed a lot of trees. So we, instead of getting rid of all of those logs completely, we used a lot of those logs to form the log life area, so that way people can have an easy area where they're not really going off the trail to explore logs, and they're not tromping through poison ivy, which we do have a lot of at this time of year, so be careful. But this is an area that you can go explore even on your own. We do it as a program here at the Nature Center as well. But if you're out here on our trails, you're free to go into this area and turn the logs over. Now, you're going to see several videos here, and the videos will show us turning the logs over, looking for things underneath, and putting the logs back. One thing I want to say before we get started in the videos is that it's important to keep in mind that when we're turning these logs over, we are essentially moving around somebody's home. I kind of liken it to the roof on a house. So when you're moving the log and you turn it, you move it away from its position where it had been sitting, it's kind of like taking the roof off of your house. You're exposing the things that are living underneath the log to the elements. So after you're done looking at things underneath that log, we like to put the log back to where it was sitting, because there's things living underneath that log that depend upon that log as shelter. So we'll turn the logs over, explore, take a look at things that are underneath it, and then put the the log back so we're not permanently removing the roof on the house, so to speak. So that's something to keep in mind, but you can, look at logs around your house, fallen trees around your house. It's just a good idea to put things back when you're done, so to leave things as much as the way they were before you started looking around. Okay, so I mentioned earlier that fallen trees and logs are an important part of the food chain, which is very true. Now, one of the first things you're going to see here is a mushroom. So I'm going to go ahead and play this video. This was a mushroom, also called fungus, that we found growing off of one of the logs. And mushrooms are very important to the food chain and to the ecosystem because they are decomposers, which means that they help to break down plant and animal matter that is in the environment. In order for things to cycle through these food chains and cycle through the environment, we need some of these things to be the to be the thing that helps break everything down. And that's what these mushrooms do. That's what fungus does. Here's another one that we found on a log. We have lots of different types of mushrooms out here. I'm not particularly an expert in mushrooms. We do have shelf fungus out here. We have turkey tail fungus out here. There are other mushrooms. I know we have morels. And if you come in the fall, you'll see these big white things that look kind of like styrofoam. They're actually called puffballs. And they're these big white, they can get really big, that you'll see growing out here towards the beginning of fall. And they are mushrooms. And some people will eat them. I, years ago, did try it, and I didn't particularly like it, and I am a lover of mushrooms, but to each their own. So anyways, mushrooms play an important role in the ecosystem. So here you'll see us turning over a pretty big log and looking at what's underneath. Sorry for how quickly I'm moving the video here, but you'll see this first thing that's moving around really, really fast. That is a centipede. A lot of people are creeped out by those. I get really excited about them. That you probably heard me say in the video, oh, look there. So if you hear me get excited, it's because I feel like a child sometimes when I'm exploring things like this. And when I see these things, I get really excited because it is really neat to get to see them. You saw how fast that centipede scurried away. They are really fast. Now here is a millipede. And in just a minute, I'm going to show you another slide where you'll see a picture to help show the difference between centipedes and millipedes. But there are a few differences between them. You can see here that the millipede is moving much slower than the centipede was. So millipedes aren't going to scurry away like that centipede did. You can almost guarantee that if it's something that's looks like this that moves really, really fast, and you're not sure if it's centipede or a millipede, it's probably a centipede. If it's moving kind of slow and taking its time, it's probably a millipede. Millipedes will also curl up into balls when they are bothered. So sometimes you'll see millipedes do that as well. Centipedes and millipedes, they're not insects. And they belong to a subphylum of arthropods called Myriapoda, which in Greek means countless feet. And so that's one of the things that they share in common is that both millipedes and centipedes, they do have a lot of legs. They have a segmented body with many legs. But here I'm going to show you a picture of a millipede and centipede. And the big difference is how many legs are per segment. So the centipede, as you'll see here, has 2 legs per segment, one on either side of the body. The millipede, however, has 4 legs, or 2 pairs of legs per segment. So they'll have 2 on either side of the body per segment. So the millipede has 4 legs per segment, whereas the centipede has 2 legs per segment. And that's one of the big differences between the two. So also, centipedes are fast predators, and they'll actually eat smaller arthropods. That's one reason why they tell people not to pick up a centipede, because they do have these modified legs that serve kind of like pinchers, and you don't want to get those or have them pinch you with them. Millipedes, on the other hand, they'll eat decaying plant matter. So they're not predators like the centipedes. One reason why centipedes are so fast, they're trying, they have to be fast to try to get their prey. So millipedes, rather than scrambling away from predators, they actually will secrete these irritating or poisonous chemicals to deter creatures that want to eat them. So unless you're trying to eat a millipede, if you're just touching it, it's probably not going to hurt you. You want to make sure you wash your hands afterward. So unless you're trying to eat a millipede, you don't have too much to worry about with them. Another way to tell the difference is that millipedes, they have more of a roundish type body, whereas centipedes, they have a kind of a flatter body, and their legs are typically spread away from the body, while millipedes' legs, they point down to the ground. And that's another way to distinguish them. They can come in different sizes. There are very large millipedes and there are very large centipedes as well. So you're not going to see the massive millipedes and centipedes here in Michigan that you're going to see in warmer or tropical climates. They can get to be a fair size, but there are some very large millipedes and centipedes out there that you're going to see in warmer places. All right, I'm going to show you another video here. This is not a centipede or a millipede. This is an earthworm. And believe it or not, earthworms are actually, and this one's a millipede, the second one that I showed you in the video. Now, earthworms are actually not native to Michigan. They're not native to the Great Lakes region. They were brought here during European settlement in the 1800s. A lot of people don't realize that because there are so many of them. They're all over the place, especially after it rains. And that's a great time to look for earthworms underneath logs, is after it's rained. When it's drier, we don't see as many worms underneath logs. So, earthworms, they are beneficial in gardens and agricultural fields, but they can be harmful to Michigan forests where they have become invasive. So that's something to keep in mind about earthworms, that when you see them, they actually don't belong here. They were brought here. So that's something to keep in mind. Now, back to the millipedes and centipedes. So centipedes and millipedes, they like to live on land for the most part, and they're found in mostly terrestrial habitats. Kind of some places they live in caves underground, but they're especially noticeable in extremely dry environments. There's a lot of large centipedes that live in areas like deserts, which obviously we don't have here. Now, that's for centipedes. Millipedes, they actually prefer more moist soil and leaf litter in deciduous forests. There are some species that are found in grasslands or deserts, though. They actually also have a difference from centipedes in their outer covering, that outer exoskeleton. We have an endoskeleton, humans, that's the inside skeleton. They have an exoskeleton. And millipedes don't have a waxy layer on their exoskeleton that would help them retain water the way centipedes do. And that's another thing that makes them different from each other. Okay, so here is a jar. When we're doing this stuff, we like to explore these little bugs and what some people would call creepy crawlies a little bit closer. So we sometimes put them in jars like this. And here you can see the centipede moving around. It helps you see it a little bit better than just trying to watch it underneath the log. They are really fast. This other thing that's crawling around really fast in there is probably some type of beetle larva, which means a young beetle. This is before it has changed into an adult beetle. And the other one that is crawling around in here was some sort of caterpillar, actually. And we weren't able to identify which kind this was before we did this program. But we found these guys all underneath the logs yesterday. it's interesting to see the differences in the way they move. And here the centipede is not going to be too happy with this little larva here. In just a little bit, it it jumps at the at the larva, trying to get it to stop climbing over him. But again, you can see really well here these legs on the centipede, how they're kind of the centipede is very flattened out, and those legs kind of stick out to the side. Whereas again, the millipede that we saw earlier, the legs kind of sit underneath the millipede. I'm just checking here while we're watching this video to see if there were any comments or questions that have popped up. I don't see anything. So centipedes, they're quote unquote bites. They're not known to be lethal, but it's not a good idea to try to handle them because the larger ones especially can puncture human skin with their what they kind of like venomous claws. Remember I said they have kind of like modified legs. So it's not generally a good idea to handle them, although the centipedes that have here in Michigan are not going to do that much damage. They can be somewhat painful. Millipedes, they don't bite or sting, and they can usually be handled safely. Although, like I mentioned earlier, you want to make sure you wash your hands because they do have that chemical defense that could include things like poison that that can be bad for you if you somehow ingest it. All right, so moving on to some other things you can find underneath the logs. Here's a group of ants that we saw scurrying around once we flipped the log, and here is a slug. Actually, we find a lot of slugs underneath the logs, especially after it's rained a lot. We'll see a lot of slugs. Slugs are pretty similar to snails. They're both mollusks. Except snails, basically they carry with them some hardware that protects them, and slugs don't. And that's the main difference. So snails have a shell and slugs don't. So slugs can actually move themselves. They don't move very fast, but they can move themselves forward by sending these waves of small contractions from the back of its base down towards the front. If you've ever picked up some of these slugs, you'll also notice that they have a mucus that covers them. You know, these typically are nocturnal creatures, but they will come out on darker days. But that's one reason why they like to hide underneath logs. And dryness is pretty bad for them. Oh, here, what you're seeing there in this video, in this part of the video, are the some people call them pill bugs, people call them roly-polies, also wood lice. Those are a couple different names for them. And these are pretty common to see around here as well. And actually, these roly-polies, they like to live underneath logs and rocks and things like that. They're not bugs. They're not actually insects. They don't have the same characteristics as insects. They're actually what we call isopods, meaning same pod or foot, and they have 7 pairs of legs that are similar in size and shape. Roly-polies, they tend to be terrestrial creatures that are related to marine animals. So they're similar to some of the marine animals that we would find. They're similar to sow bugs as well, but they're not necessarily. Some people refer to them as sow bugs, but they're not actually sow bugs. Let's see here. The next animal that we're going to see here is something called a harvestman. And a lot of people mistake these for spiders, and they're actually not spiders. One way you can tell that they're not spiders is that they have a broad fusion of two body segments, versus spiders don't have a fusion between the two body segments. So it actually looks like the body appears to be a single segment instead of two segments. Harvestmen also don't have silk glands. They don't spin webs. And unlike spiders, they lack venom glands associated with their mouth parts. So they're not going to they're not, you don't have to worry about that, the venom, if you're, from being bitten by a harvestman. They're actually pretty easy to handle. They can be very fast, but they're pretty easy to handle. Sometimes people refer to them as daddy long legs. I'm going to show you another video here. So you can hear the rain, but again, they do like the moisture. Salamanders are amphibians, so they're related to frogs and toads. Redback salamander, although they don't have an aquatic larval stage, they have gill buds for the first few days after hatching, but they have the same coloration as adults. So here they're going to show you the salamander again trying to eat a bug here. It's kind of hard to see exactly what the bug is because the video is a little blurry. So these are one of my favorite finds if it has been raining and there's been a lot of moisture on the ground. If you do handle a salamander, you want to make sure that you're not handling them for too long, or your hands are moist, because their bodies need to stay moist. And because they're amphibians, they also have skin that's easily penetrable, which means that they'll take in very easily through their skin toxins, chemicals, so anything you have on your hands. So it's also very important when you're wanting to handle them to be very careful about that and make sure that you didn't just have something in your hand that could be a chemical or something that could go through their skin and make them really sick. All right, the last animal we're going to see here is actually sitting on top of the log, but what a lot of people don't realize is that chipmunks actually sometimes will live inside of logs. They'll have their burrows near logs or under logs, but that's one of the places that I see a lot of chipmunks is in or around logs, especially hollow logs. You'll see them going in and out of hollow logs. Obviously, chipmunks are pretty common, but again, this is a little bit of a larger animal that gives you an example of something that depends upon logs for survival. Like I said, they like to live inside of logs. A lot of times I'll see chipmunks going in and out of logs. I wasn't quite sure what this chipmunk was eating here. I couldn't get close enough to see what it was eating. But chipmunks, they do eat plant matter. They're mainly herbivores. So they'll usually eat things like fruits, seeds, and nuts. Although sometimes they have been known to eat things like earthworms and slugs and mushrooms. So while they're mainly herbivores, they will supplement their diet with some of these other things. Another animal that likes to eat mushrooms actually are flying squirrels, which we do have here in Michigan. They're actually much more common than people think. Flying squirrels don't actually fly, they glide. They have that extra skin in between their legs that they stretch open, kind of like a parachute, and they use it to grab the air and glide through the air. But flying squirrels are actually important in spreading the spores of the mushrooms that grow on logs. So when they eat the mushrooms, when they eat the fungus, it goes into their body, and then they move to another area, and eventually they have to go to the bathroom. They have to poop. And when they go to the bathroom, that excrement has the spores in it from the fungus that they ate. So it helps to spread those spores. And that's important because, like I mentioned earlier, fungus is a decomposer. So they're very important in helping to decompose or break down plant and animal matter to return it to the forest ecosystem. Okay, so those were the videos and photos that I had to share with you. I'm going to switch back here to the camera. I hope everybody's been seeing and hearing me okay. For some reason, I'm not seeing any comments come in or questions. I've been kind of checking, and I don't see any comments or questions coming in. So if for some reason you guys have been asking questions and comments and I haven't been able to see them while I've been presenting, I will definitely go back through afterward after I finish here to see if there were any that I missed. So that was a little bit of an exploration into log life. So as you can see, there's a lot more going on around logs and in logs and underneath logs than people think, and they play an important part to the ecosystem. So if you have a tree that falls down around your house or that you need to take care of or that you need to cut down, consider leaving some of that around your house to provide habitat to other small organisms. You'll also see toads, for example, living around fallen trees and logs. There's a lot of things that depend upon logs to survive. So that's something to consider around your house, is to keep things like that around your house to help provide more mini habitats for these living things. So that's something to think about. And again, when you come out on the trails and you see that maybe it doesn't look so clean and pretty off the trails because there's a lot of fallen trees, again, we do that because it's a part of nature. It's a part of that natural cycle, and the environment needs these fallen trees to be able to survive. It's an important part of the food web, and it provides habitat for a lot of different living organisms. So that was giving you a little bit of exploration of log life today. Again, you can come explore our log life area when you're out on the trails. Again, we just make sure that you, after you're finished rolling the logs and looking at things, that you roll the logs back over to put their homes back to the way they were. If you're looking at any of the things that are living underneath the log, we ask that you not take them with you. You can look at them, but then make sure you put them back so that way we're not disturbing the habitat too much. So, I hope you all. So I see somebody said clean and pretty often means sterile. Well, yes, I guess that's true. That's very true. A lot of times that does mean sterile. But yeah, so a nice habitat is going to have a mixture of trees that are living and standing, going to have trees that maybe aren't doing so well. They're going to have trees that have fallen over. That is a good natural habitat. Natural habitats have all of these different stages of life, and it's important to an ecosystem to have all of these different stages of life. You don't want to just have one stage. It's not natural. So that's something to keep in mind again when you're looking at these natural areas and you're thinking, why aren't they cleaning up? These people are being lazy. It's like, no, we're not necessarily being lazy. It's just to help support the natural habitat and ecosystem that we have out here. So again, I hope you all enjoyed the program. I will look forward to seeing you again next Tuesday at 1 p.m. I'm excited for next Tuesday's program because it's going to be all about wildlife babies. And I have spent the last month taking lots of video of different wildlife babies that you can see around here at the Nature Center or even around your houses. So you're going to get to see some of these videos, including things like deer and their fawns, rabbits, different types of birds that we have nesting out here, raccoons. So these are some of the things that we're going to explore, and I'm especially going to talk about what you should do if you find a wildlife baby. How to tell if maybe it's something you need to be concerned about or if it's just natural that that fawn is being left there by itself, which is often the case. So I'm going to be talking about those things while we get to see some fun videos of the wildlife we've been seeing around the Nature Center and around the area. So I hope to see you next Tuesday at 1 p.m. on our Facebook page, Stage Nature Center's Facebook page. Again, visit our website, stagenaturecenter.org, to get more information about what's going on here. And I hope to see you when we reopen next week on Tuesday, June 16th, 9 a.m. So I hope everybody's staying safe and healthy, and I hope you have a wonderful weekend. Enjoy the weather, and I hope to see you soon. All right? Well, take care, and bye.